President Trump's immigration proposal has put Democrats in a bind. They know it and he knows it. Trump's immigration framework, first outlined on January 25, represents an unusually sophisticated strategy. He proposes to more than double the number of Dreamers granted a path to citizenship, a significant concession to Democrats. In return, he seeks approval of a set of policies strongly opposed by the left, each of which is designed to stem what Trump sees as a threatening increase in the non-white population of the United States. What kind of numbers are we talking about? According to the Pew Research Center, there are now an estimated 690,000 registered Dreamers in the United States, all of whom were brought to this country as children before 2007. Trump's offer would increase the number offered a path to citizenship to 1.8 million by adding those who are eligible for DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, but who never registered. For a Democratic Party whose electoral strength depends on Hispanic support, 64% of Latinos identified with or leaned toward the Democratic Party in 2016. Preventing the deportation of the Dreamers and providing them with legal status has become a matter of political necessity. Trump, acutely aware of the importance of DACA to Democrats, deliberately turned the status of Dreamers into a crisis on September 5 when he ended the Dreamers program. Since then, DACA has been the subject of constant debate and negotiation. Democrats have continued to threaten to shut down the government, when the Treasury runs out of money on February 8, if no favorable agreement can be reached. Trump's proposal more than meets Democratic demands on DACA. But in return, Trump wants Democrats to swallow three proposals of varying unpalatability. First, the creation of a $25 billion fund for construction of a southern border wall to prevent illegal entry to the United States, primarily by undocumented Hispanics. Second, a shift in immigration priorities from family reunification to a merit system granting entry to workers with relatively high skills. This would require limiting reunification preferences to minor children and spouses, while eliminating them for parents, siblings, and adult children, what critics call chain migration. These steps would reduce immigration from developing countries, the two top countries of origin benefiting from family reunification policies are Mexico and the Dominican Republic. Third, an end to the diversity immigrant visa program. The countries providing the largest numbers of immigrants under the lottery visa program, according to the State Department, are Cameroon, Congo, Liberia, Egypt, Iran, Nepal, Ukraine, and Uzbekistan. The greatest unknown is how immigration reform will influence the voting behavior of the white working class. In a January 29 Vox essay, the math is clear. Democrats need to win more working-class white votes. Rui Teixeira, a senior fellow at the Liberal Center for American Progress, writes that Democrats seeking to regain control of Congress may be forced to mute their opposition to Trump immigration provisions they find offensive. Teixeira argues that the problem for Democrats is that not only do they need to improve margins among white working-class voters, but they cannot allow a repetition of the minority voting patterns in 2016. That year, Black turnout fell to 59.6% from 66.6% in 2012, and Clinton won 66% of the Latino vote, 5 percentage points less than President Barack Obama in 2012. Doug Jones's December victory in the Alabama Senate race demonstrated how crucial black voters are to Democrats. In that close contest, African Americans, 92% of whom voted for Jones, made up 29% of the electorate. They are 26% of the voting age population. The conflicts the Trump proposals present for Democrats are most painful to Hispanic and Black elected officials. In a statement, Rep. Michelle Lujan Grisham, Democrat of New Mexico and chairwoman of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, attacked Trump's demands. Despite these complaints, there are many political analysts sympathetic to the Democratic plight who contend that Trump has boxed Democrats in. Stephen Gold, a sociologist at Michigan State University, emailed me in a reference to the demonstrated electoral liabilities of so-called identity politics. Gold argued that concerned Democrats worry that, more bluntly, Nolan McCarty, a political scientist at Princeton, declared in an email responding to my inquiry. McCarty explained further an advantage in accepting the Trump proposal. McCarty continued, Trump and Stephen Miller, a senior advisor to the president, have clearly made this calculation and decided that they win either way. Take, for example, the following tweet from the president's account on January 27. Robert L. Borisage, president of the Left Liberal Institute for America's Future, argued that Democrats should make every effort to get the immigration issue off center stage. In my view, Borisage said in an email, Trump wins as long as we're arguing about this. So it would be good to get this done soon. Borisage went on. Bruce Kane, a political scientist at Stanford, makes the case that political logic favors Democratic cooperation with Trump on immigration. In fact, I found an unexpectedly high percentage of the experts I contacted, most of whom are sympathetic to the plight of immigrants in general, agreement that Democrats would be wise to come to some kind of an agreement with Trump. Daniel Hopkins, a political scientist at the University of Pennsylvania, noted, for example, that the public supports both a pathway to citizenship for Dreamers and enhanced border security. But, he warned, so far at least, arguments in favor of cutting a deal are not selling with the Democratic leadership, although the leader's position may be more of a bargaining tactic than a principled stance. Chuck Schumer, the Senate Democratic leader, tweeted on January 26 that this plan flies in the face of what most Americans believe, adding Nancy Pelosi, the Democratic House leader, was more outspoken. In a January 26 statement that received wide press coverage, she described Trump's proposal as part of the Trump administration's unmistakable campaign to make America white again. After Trump reiterated his immigration proposals in his State of the Union address Tuesday night, Pelosi stood firm in her opposition. In a detailed critique of the Trump proposal, William Frey, a demographic specialist at Brookings, argued that Frey wrote in his email that he could nonetheless, in a Washington Post op-ed published in 2015, Frey pointed out that there is, Frey continued, a sharp lag in diversity between the overall population and the portion that turns out on election day. It is the older electorate those most greatly fearing change, he wrote. When I asked him if there was a disparity between his recent comment to me and the Post op-ed, Frey wrote back, it may seem surprising now, but the Pew Research Center found that from 1994 to 2006 there was very little difference between the views of Republican and Democratic voters on immigration. Since that time they have diverged sharply. In response to the question, which comes closer to your view, immigrants today strengthen the country because of their hard work and talents, or immigrants today burden the country by taking jobs, housing, and health care, there was almost no difference in the responses of Democrats and Republicans in 2006. In 2016, 78% of Democrats had a positive view of immigration compared with 35% of Republicans. In a circumspect analysis of the immigration issue, Morris Levy, a political scientist at the University of Southern California, argued in an email that public views of immigration are complex and sometimes contradictory. Levy wrote that his sense is that a final deal. He cautioned, however, that it is even if much of the public has ambivalent feelings about immigration, that doesn't mean the issue will have no more than a moderate impact on the election. Animosity to immigration was crucial to Trump's Electoral College victory, especially in rural Rust Belt counties. But the legislative framework Trump proposed is by no means risk-free for Republicans. Emily Ekins, director of polling at the Libertarian Cato Institute, wrote me that crucially, Ekins noted that immigration attitudes were from another vantage point. Democratic House incumbents face an exceptionally large number of primary challengers this year, many of them from the left, supported by such groups as Justice Democrats, Indivisible and other insurgent organizations. For these challengers, a failure to protect the Dreamers would be a powerful issue in a primary contest, a potential threat increasing pressure on current Democratic members of Congress to reach an agreement. Further complicating the matter, however, is that Democratic primary challengers are equally likely to accuse incumbents of selling out if they vote to support funding for the border wall. For Republicans, it would be difficult to defend televised deportations of hard-working, law-abiding young men and women to countries of which they have little or no memory. David Leach, an emeritus political scientist at Notre Dame, has trenchantly observed that as both parties struggle with the logistical and moral quagmire that the immigration issue represents, they face problems that they need to solve and not to solve at the same time.